All right, good afternoon, and welcome to this fourth episode in the Atomic Algo podcast series. I'm Jamie Justice. With me today is Dr. Greg Pitts of the Commonwealth Hand Center. I've just dropped your name wrong. Anyway, I want to welcome who's CEO of the Commonwealth Hand and Physical Therapy Center. Also, typically with me is Earl Ray Neal, who are both members of the Executive Advisory Board team here at the Ergonauts. And so, what we want to do today is, since Earl Ray is out, Greg and I are going to have a brief discussion talking about his background and some key questions on the topics of ergonomics in the workplace and so forth. Dr. Pitts and Greg, as he prefers to go by, is recognized as one of the top hand therapists on the planet. In his career, which has spanned over 3 decades, Greg's been a practitioner, an academic, and a researcher. Greg regularly speaks and trains both domestically and internationally. He developed the curriculum and taught in an accredited OT doctoral program. Greg is also a successful entrepreneur and serves as the CEO of Commonwealth Hand and Physical Therapy, Bluegrass Properties, and Commonwealth Hand Technologies. He's also the chair of the American Hand Therapy Foundation Advisory Board. Greg has 28 years of treating Toyota employees and working within the Toyota production system in Lean. Greg has been a board member with Ergonauts since it was founded in 2000. He currently serves as the board chair for Ergonauts Executive Advisory Board. Greg has served as an officer in the U.S. Army, and he also played the position of nose guard on several national championship football teams at his alma mater, Eastern Kentucky University, which is also mine as well, under Roy Kidd. And I remember those days well, as we mentioned earlier. Greg, thank you for being with me today. Thank you for the
Yeah,
riding through my delays and being late and the other issues that I've run into here today. But let's go ahead and kick it off now. And let me ask you a few key questions and get your feedback on those. So, to begin, most people refer to our profession as the safety and health field. Technically, poor ergonomics produce illness. Can you explain why these are classified as health effects slash illnesses, being that they're cumulative in nature or repeated exposure and like? A safety issue is typically instantaneous. So, give us an example of some of this, compared to stepping on a nail or whatever, in terms of ergonomic injuries and health injuries.
well, routine exposure to common risk factors can put the human body at risk for injury. And typical injuries can occur from the most common people think about is repetitive motion, but the most dangerous is probably going to be static posture. Injuries are lagging indicators of usually a process problem, whether it be a new process or a standards not being met, lack of training. There could be, you know, bad parts, whatever is going to create and change the standard of work, which could create injury. And so the best solution is to be able to go down, look at the work environment, and hopefully make some good decisions based upon the employees that are doing the work, get their input. The big picture is it is a medical issue. People do lose lost time work, and it can be very detrimental. Most employers and most employees um, can't make it on workers' compensation. They need their overtime work. They need to be able to have the regular pay, and so most people really value their work environment and value going to work.
Yeah, that certainly is a big issue. Definitely, you don't even think about some of these things sometimes about, yeah, you got workers' comp, but you're not making the same living that you were making when you were on that. So the impact is just really large. And looking at some statistics, according to Liberty Mutual's 2022 Work Safety Index, illnesses due to poor ergonomics account for two of the top 10 non-fatal disabling illnesses. These two account for 28.67% of those illnesses and $16.64 billion in direct cost of the total. What's it going to take to bring this number down? As far as those overall costs of this type of thing.
A quick summary is going to be time management. Time management of the case. So the better that the employer can control time, and so expedient care for the employee, good care for the employee, um, your quick diagnostics from the physician, quick therapy from the therapist, good return to work policies, i.e., modified duty, which is return to the same job but controlling the exposure, or even light duty programs, getting back into the work environment, not losing touch with their peers, not losing touch with their supervisors, will make a huge difference in the outcome. But if you don't control the time, the patient will get lost. A good example: if a worker does not go back to work within a 6 month period, they have only a 10% chance of returning to their essential job tasks.
Mm. Wow, and that's a staggering number in and of itself. Can you give us some examples of types of illnesses that you treat that are due to poor ergonomics?
Sure. Well, the most common that everybody reads about is carpal tunnel syndrome, which is compression of the median nerve at the wrist, which makes your fingers and your thumb, index, and middle finger numb. You lose a sensory feedback loop, so you work harder, which creates a bigger problem. It's a continuous problem. The other one is going to be trigger finger, which can occur in the palm of your hand, which affects your tendons, which disallows you to move well. It's usually due to mechanical stress, vibration, awkward postures that create problem. The Querva's tendinosynovitis is another one that we see very commonly. That can affect your hand and the way it moves and handles tools. You can have medial epicondylitis, lateral epicondylitis, which creates pain with heavy force and lifting. Shoulder injuries, rotator cuff injuries, labral tears that can be caused from large reach envelopes, heavy lifting, repetitive motion overhead. We see a lot of different things, and these are all can be life changing, particularly if they wait too long to get them fixed. So the severity index goes up from lagging. What we talk about lagging indicators, get them slow, seen by professionals. It can be the problem can get bigger. So as soon as employers identify a problem, they should go immediately down, evaluate the work site, determine do they have appropriate standards in place, processes in place, and are the employees appropriately trained to avoid these injuries because they can be life changing.
Oh, absolutely. I can definitely relate to that. So, when we think about you changing life of you who has the injury, but there's other aspects around this as well too. So, for example, can you share some of the direct costs you're aware of for treating those types of illnesses?
Yeah, the direct costs are going to be basically time off from work. So you pay the employee for being time off. You have to buy a replacement employee. That's going to be costly. You have to have a case manager and pay them to manage the case. You usually have to pay a doctor or maybe two doctors, a occupational medicine doctor and a specialist if they need a specialist. You have to pay a therapist to do the treatment for them. So that are some of that are those are some of the biggest direct costs that impact the return to work, and as well as the total cost of the case. It's not uncommon for a carpal tunnel case to cost an employer between 50 and 55,000 per case. That's total case cost, but that's a lot of money when it eats into the bottom line. That's a typical carpal tunnel. A elbow injury could be 80,000. Shoulder injury could be 80 to $100,000 per case. Back injury 150 plus. So this is big money you're talking about for a single case. So when you get down to where you're talking about prevention, and you can go and prevent if you can prevent 10% of the injuries, you're going to save the company a lot of money in direct costs.
Absolutely. I mean, that's staggering. You don't think. I guess most people don't really think about that. What the overall impact is to the overall budget and operation and success of a small company or a large company. It doesn't
You know,
matter.
the indirect costs are going to be lost production.
Hmm.
You have to train the new employee that's going to do the work. A loss of quality, increased waste because of loss of quality. There's a lot of cost there trying to replace that worker. Most of the workers that work today in America are very trained. They're very skilled, and
Hmm.
trying to replace them is very, very costly in many ways, both direct and indirect.
And add that to the current worker shortage that we have, and wow, it's magnified. Maybe once again, it just seems like it's an exponential thing that just continues to grow.
In the
Uh,
suit.
One other biggie here, I think that is important to bring up as we look at all this process. That the boomers are retiring, born between 1946 and 64. In fact, one in every 8 seconds retires. That's 10,800 people per day. It's just math, but all 77 million boomers will reach the retirement age in 2030. What effects is going to aging population going to have on the workforce overall, and are they more susceptible to illnesses than their younger counterparts?
Well, we're going to have our current cumulative trauma disorders, but we're also going to add our chronic disorders, i.e., wrist arthritis, finger arthritis, thumb arthritis, elbow arthritis, neck arthritis, back arthritis, hip, knee, foot. So we're going to see a wide range of new illnesses that are going to increase in frequency from chronic problems. Remember, in most states, that if you have a chronic illness, i.e., arthritis, if it's aggravated at work, it becomes a work injury. So it can become a really big deal for employers. as the workforce ages. It's really a big deal. It's a big deal in your workforce. 20 years ago, our average workforce in most places was somewhere around 30, 35. Now we're in 55, 60 range. It's going to be a big situation for a lot of employees.
I remember talking about all this period of time that was going to come, and now I've been blessed to live long enough to see it start to happen. It's going to be interesting to see what happens during this transitional period. I don't think anyone ever foresaw it being complicated by a pandemic and the other changes that we've had, with workers availability and all anyway. And now maybe some of those boomers may stay till 2032, considering how things have changed. But
The impact from the pandemic, you think about it, you have a deconditioning of the body, but also deconditioning of the mind,
yeah,
and change in behavior, a lack of exposure. So you lose skills, you lose dexterity skills, work endurance, work tolerance, flexibility, cardiovascular endurance, as well as dexterity with your hands. That's all lost when you can't engage in work. Those are skills that are learned over time that can be lost very quickly.
yeah.
They can be regained, but it takes time. And not to mention the psychosocial impacts of the pandemic.
And that goes right back to those indirect and direct costs of making sure, so the bottom line, I guess, is let's do something about ergonomics and workplace safety and well-being on the front side as much as we possibly can, whoever you are in the process. So I mean, that's some telling information that we've just discussed in the last few moments. So one other thing, in talking to you personally, you've been marinated, as I understand, in the famous Toyota culture. How do you think that lean culture affects their ergo model?
I've been very blessed. I've been able to actually see the lean process in motion for many, many years. And it's very humbling when you see it because these people eat, breathe, and sleep it. And they understand that lean processes improve production, it improves quality, and it helps reduce safety risks.
Hmm.
So it's a win-win-win. The employer wins and the employee wins. So safety is a byproduct of lean manufacturing. Production is a byproduct. Quality is a byproduct. And so if you really embrace it, like Toyota embraces it, and it's such a learning environment. It's like I said, it's extremely humbling to be able to work with such great engineers and great minds. And they really all embrace. They talk the same language. They understand the same focus. They understand the Kaizen process. They understand the importance of standardization and how you can use standards to leverage discipline, production, quality, training, and a lot of other manufacturers don't quite understand the culture and how to create that culture. They
Hmm.
have to they have to be patient. And a good friend of mine, Ernie Richardson, I've worked years with, has taught me, that people have to have patience to see the end product of ergonomics. It's not going to be instantaneous. It's going to
Right.
take time, but the end process of lean manufacturing is better production, better quality, and a safer work environment, and a happier employee. And that's really what we're all after. We're after taking care of the people that work in the plant and having them be productive. A happy employee is a safe and productive employee. And that's what employers seem to be thinking about is
Mhm.
not short-term fix, but long-term fix. What we do today impacts tomorrow.
I couldn't agree more that as one who's not really taken care of myself in the proper way when I've done my production and things in the past, and it's just that you don't think about how long it takes for this change to take effect, and you're just gonna keep pushing that board through the table saw in my case or whatever, and then suddenly one day you realize your thumb's not working like it used to, and I think a lot of people take that for granted, and again that to me launches the value and importance of why we have this whole discussion in ergonauts and looking at ergonomics as a safety way to make things happen. So, speaking of ergonauts, you've been a major contributor in development of ergonauts Ergo Algo platform. Uh, Explain why the laser targeted training and the app software are changing the ergo market. We built it to train an army of evaluators. The only chance we have to significantly prevent this illness is through this process. So tell me a little bit about your time within developing this and whatever information you'd like to share.
Well, and my view is I think that the app and the Ergo Algo is basically it helps demonstrate and teaches the standard of ergonomics, and it helps demonstrate the value of the standard, and then it allows the evaluator to actually apply the standard and has a report that is very, very detailed and that can be reproduced over and over again. That's the beauty of it, is that you have a standardized process that can be reproduced over time. That's very efficient. It's very cost efficient. It's very time efficient, and helps employers understand and see in a very fast pace how to set up a proper workstation for a office worker and help them reproduce that across the entire platform of workers in a
Mhm.
very cost-effective manner. I was back in the days when we used to go and teach this, and well, back in the way back in the day, we would go out and actually do an office ergonomic evaluation on one employee. Well, that's okay and that's cool, but it doesn't fix the problem because it's usually systemic in nature. It's everywhere. So then we got to where, well, okay, let's just go and teach the engineer or the person, the safety manager for the company, as well as the managers. And so we started doing that, and we would train the trainers so we could train the managers to go out and train and do. And we would teach them things like, how to buy the appropriate equipment. Extremely important. You can overbuy chairs, whereas underbuy a chair. You can overbuy a work platform as well as underbuy it. And this software helps you determine what the workers need, which is very valuable. It saves the company a lot of money. There's a big difference between a $300 chair and a $1,000 chair. I can give you one example. I went to a place one time, and they bought 40 $1,000 chairs. I looked at them and said, "These are great chairs, but probably only 10% of your population need those chairs. You could have
Mhm.
done really well with 90% of these chairs being $300 chairs." Well, let me tell you, that raised a lot of eyebrows. And so what I'm trying to say is that you can overbuy and underbuy ergonomic products, and this software package will help you determine what you need to fit that worker to the workstation, and consistently. And it makes it more of a objective measure versus a subjective measure. And it
Mhm.
also allows people that may not have the same level of training as a Mike Gladden or a Steve Davis, but it allows them to reproduce and actually set a standard and do it across the platform. Extremely powerful, very valuable when you look at it in the long run. You can save a lot of money, and obviously if you prevent one shoulder injury, $100,000. Prevent carpal tunnel, $50,000. That's not hard math to do when you think about the cost of the app and about how much it can do for you.
Absolutely. Just like we established, the indirect and direct costs. If you can avoid just one of those, you've certainly made some money with this motion, and that's what we need to be profitable and successful.
It
Well, we're
also
coming down. Go ahead.
demonstrates, I'm sorry, but also demonstrates that you've taken the appropriate measures to make a safe work environment, particularly in the home setting when these workers are not working on site anymore. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry.
No, 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 no. That's cool. I'm glad we both hit it. All right. So with that, I mean, we've covered quite a bit. We've come up here on 17 minutes now, so we like to keep those within a time limit. I have one last question for you today.
Okay.
And I understand you frequently sound the alarm about the academic future of OT due to a high number of faculty nationally retiring. So the baby boomers again. What does that look like for the profession? What's going to happen with the OT profession?
Well, both the OT and the physical therapy, occupational therapy, and physical therapy profession, the professors are aging, and so there's been some predictive models out that in the next 5 years we're going to lose somewhere between 50 and 75% of all of our teachers.
Wow.
They're going to retire, and so I think that's going to spurt some new educational models. They're going to figure out how to do more with less. I think they're going to have to embrace the community and use more people that are out working in the environment and bring them in to help them co-teach. But it's going to be a problem, and every university is facing this. One of the bigger, your smaller universities really going to get hurt because they're going to be they already have shortage of staff now. So when these people retire, they're going to be very hard to replace because everybody's going to be after it. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens long term. It can really impact us somewhere between a 15 to 20-year mark down the road. I hope I'm still here to see it, but probably not. But what I'm saying is that it's going to have a big impact on ergonomics, on healthcare, on quality of life, and it's something that they really are struggling with how to fix.
So we have a lot of challenges before us, but we have some tools that are going to help deal with that. Being our Ergonauts venture, and I hope that we can continue to see things grow and people understand the impact of what it is that we're trying to help them solve, or the tools that we can help them solve it with.
I,
Greg, it's been a lot of fun talking with you today. Thank you again for your patience with the delayed start. I'll follow up with you soon. Hopefully, I want to want to chat with you a little bit more. and we'll do this another time, hopefully, and maybe get you, Steve Davis, and I talking, and see what else we can come up with. But thank you once again, and hopefully everyone out there will join us again for our next podcast coming up here in the next week or so for episode 5, and hopefully Earl Ray will be back with us. But till then, we'll see you next time, and be safe out there, and have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie.
Bye
Bye.
bye.